A mental health study on youths in Singapore has found that about 1 in 3 reported experiencing severe or extremely severe symptoms of depression, anxiety, or stress. The research, led by the Institute of Mental Health, involved face-to-face interviews with 2,600 people aged between 15 and 35 years old. Here's a breakdown. Now, anxiety was the most common. About 1 in 4 reported having this symptom. For depression, the figure was 1 in 7. 1 in 8 reported feeling stressed. But who are most susceptible? Now, there are 3 main ones. Those who went through cyberbullying, had moderate to severe concerns about their body shape, or spend more than 3 hours daily on social media, were more likely to report these symptoms. Other factors like smoking, vaping, and adverse childhood experiences like trauma or divorce were also found to be linked to severe or extremely severe symptoms of depression or anxiety.
There is definitely an increased risk of them developing a mental disorder, but it's a complex interplay. It's an interplay between these severe symptoms as well as risk and protective factors. So let's say somebody had very severe symptoms but has amazing social support. Parents are very supportive, school is supportive, friends are supportive. Likelihood is that they will be able to deal with this stress and they will be able to emerge on the other side with, no long-lasting problems.
Those with higher levels of resilience, perceived social support, and self-esteem were less likely to experience these symptoms. In terms of seeking help, the study found that about 2 in 3 did so, and most approached family and friends, about 58%, while some also sought professional advice. As for those who did not seek help, one reason is the worry of what others may think of them. Educators say destigmatizing conversations around mental health could encourage more youths to step forward. Sabrina Ng with more.
Young people glued to their phones, checking what's out there on social media. Educators say the concern is whatever that's being consumed may not help in overall development.
The biggest challenge for educators or schools to put a rule and say don't use social media, because the current generation, let it be Generation Z or the Alpha generation, are the generations that literally grew up with social media. So I think that can be a huge challenge. But I think, again, educators and schools or even society to have that comfortable conversation on what is the purpose of social media.
Platforms like TikTok have put measures in place. Only those 13 years old and above can have an account. Those below 18 are limited to 60 minutes screen time daily. A similar feature is also in place for YouTube, which allows parents to set a timer on their child's profile. Beyond curbing screen time, opening up conversations around mental health is key for those in need.
如果我们可以继续鼓励学生们，时不时要注意一下周围的朋友或者同学是否有在日常生活上有怎么样的压力啊、抑郁还是焦虑，教导他们怎么样帮助这些朋友。I think 比较重要的就是教导他们怎么样在必要的时候下，寻求老师或者其他成年人的一些资助。
Parents should try and see if their child is displaying symptoms of poor mental health and intervene early. Resources are available to them to cover topics on how to help their child cope. Researchers say findings show that there is a need to address and detect mental health symptoms in the community early on. To that end, the Health Ministry had launched a national mental health and well-being strategy last year. As part of it was a proposed tiered care model, which means that care can be trickled down to the community level and help those who need it the most. Ultimately, this is part of a whole of Singapore effort to tackle the multifaceted nature of youth mental health and to build a society where they feel comfortable coming forth to seek help.
And for more on this, we have Associate Professor Swapna Verma, who is the co-principal investigator of the study, and Lee Yiping, the program lead at the Center of Excellence for Youth Mental Health, or CHAT. Dr. Swapna, Ms. Lee, thank you so much for joining us on Singapore Tonight.
Thank you for having us.
Dr. Swapna, we can start with you. Looking at the three key factors identified in this study as causes, we're looking at excessive social media use, body image concerns, and cyberbullying. How are all of them linked to a young person's mental health?
So as we mentioned, we were looking at risk and protective factors. And we had questionnaires that looked at all the three: cyberbullying, body image disturbance, as well as social media use. And we would need to do further analysis to look at the link between the three of them. But intuitively, it makes sense. There seems to be a link. And even research has shown that especially those who spend excessive time on social media, the feeds that come in, because social media's, the feeds are meant to make you addictive.
Yeah.
And there are feeds on extreme body shapes, extreme diets, and that has an effect on people's body image. Similarly, there are links between cyberbullying and body image, especially in women. There are a lot of trollings and things that go on body image. So they are linked in different ways. It's not a cause and effect. There's an association, and which can be bidirectional. So people who are more sensitive or more anxious, they turn to social media for support as well. And then when they have these cyberbullying incidents, it further affects their mental illness, health.
Yeah, as we study the connections more in depth, when it comes to social media, it has had such a profound impact on our lives, the way we share information, the way we communicate with others. But when is screen use deemed excessive?
So in our questionnaire, it was a fairly detailed questionnaire where they had to identify which social media they use, how much time they spent, for what purposes they went on social media. But we focused on the time they spent, and we used a cutoff of 3 because international studies had shown that more than 3 is deemed as excessive social media use. And we did find that association of having more than those who spend more than 3 hours per day had more likelihood of developing depressive symptoms or anxiety symptoms.
Not more than 3 hours every day, yeah? That's moderation.
Seems to be, yes.
Okay, Ms. Lee, let's bring you in here. When a young person comes to CHAT for help, what are some of the common symptoms that they display, and how do you address them?
So some of the common symptoms would include mood difficulties like feeling low, feeling sad, feeling anxious, or maybe just stressed with whatever situations that they may be facing at that point in time, which could be related to relationships with family, friends, or even just with others in general. And in terms of how we help them, I think a lot of the young people, when they reach out to CHAT, most of the time it is their first time speaking to a professional. And so it's really important that we make sure that they have a safe space to speak to us, and that we allow them to take their time to fully express what may be going on in their experiences. And towards the end, really help them gain that clarity and awareness of what's really going on, what are the options available that they can take in terms of reclaiming their well-being. And also not forgetting to remind them that they have certain qualities and strengths that have pulled them through, in a way giving them hope. That this is just the first step, and nudging them to take on the next step in terms of seeking further support.
And very quickly, the participants of the study, they are aged between 15 and 35 years old. How do mental health issues affect young men and young women differently?
I think...
How do they vary across the different age groups and the gender and the different backgrounds for that matter?
So from our study, we found that anxiety seems to be more prevalent in women.
Anxiety.
Anxiety.
Women.
Body image is also more prevalent in women. So there are some gender differences that we see. In CHAT, we do see that actually more young women seek help. They are more help seeking, and they come to seek help.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whereas I think men can be more reticent or less likely to seek help also.
And when we talk about support networks, the importance of support networks, we think about teachers, we think about families and friends. But one of the common reasons why youths chose not to seek help was the perception that specialists cannot help them with their mental health issues. Why is this the case?
I think sometimes young people struggle to understand, is this truly serious? Do I need to seek help? They feel maybe it's just growing up pains and I'll get over them. So there is that almost reticence or fear that, am I exaggerating? Should I really seek help? And then where do I go? Do I need to see a specialist? When I see a specialist, cost is a concern, confidentiality is concerned. So that could be some of the barriers to seeking help over here. Yeah.
Dr. Swapna, Ms. Lee, I'm afraid we have run out of time, but this is such an important topic to talk about. But thank you so much for coming in to Singapore tonight. That was Associate Professor Swapna Verma and Lee Yeping from the Institute of Mental Health.